I'm Simone Federman, and I'm from Buffalo, New York. My father was a professor, experimental fiction writer, and he was very comfortable with the fact that we were incredibly close and that I was a tomboy, and I was extremely athletic, and I did all sorts of sports with him. My mom was always trying to help me fit in. She loved me a lot, but she didn't really understand me at all. I went to college, and I all of a sudden was very popular because I went to Oberlin, and then it was okay however you were. When I came home with my first girlfriend, she was very political, and my parents sort of pretended that it was because she was political that they didn't like her, but they really didn't like her, and they kind of weren't very nice to her. My mother just thought that I would grow out of it, and that it was a stage, and that I just wouldn't be happy gay, like that I would be, that would be a lonely life. I felt very comfortable and confident that I knew what I was doing. Like there was no part of me that was going to listen to my mother, and I had grown accustomed to not listening to my mother. Then when I was 25, I was going out with someone that I was really in love with, and she was a photographer. We had fights and stuff sometimes. And I met someone at a party that I just thought was great, and I decided to leave her. I was young. We decided we'd drive to California and live on the beach. My brother had like a little cabin on the beach in Santa Monica. When we were living in LA, we were living on the beach, we were running around, hiking around with the dog and everything, and we were once rolling on this lawn, and I had this horrible nosebleed, but I kept getting nosebleeds, and I'd never had a nosebleed before in my life. I was very healthy, because I was like, whatever. I was just a healthy kid. And we went back to New York because we just were sort of whatever. I felt like I missed being home. One day she was at work. She worked at Cafe Vivaldi in the West Village, and I got a really bad nosebleed. I called her, and she said, well, I don't know what to tell you. It's like crowded here. It's like nothing I can do. She's like, call my friend, who I didn't really, whoever, a friend of hers. And she came over, and she opened the door, and she said it was like a Vietnam War movie. She said not only was I covered in blood, but our dog, who was like a big dog, was covered in blood. We put ice on it, and we got it to like stop bleeding. Her friend left, and she came home from work, and by this point it was like 4 in the morning. I was like, well, let's just wait till morning, and we'll go to the hospital. And we called her dad, who knew about hospitals. He said, go to New York Eye and Ear. It's like, the best hospital for nose things. And so we went there, and the guy there said, looked at me and said, it's a polyp. Then when I came out of the surgery, they said, it was actually larger than we thought. We couldn't get it all out. And I said, really? And they said, yeah, it was a growth. It was like a growth, and then it became a da-da-da, and then it became a tumor, and they were sending me to Sloan Kettering like right away. But it all happened like in a few hours. When I got to Sloan Kettering, they said that I had a brain tumor and that it was cancer. They did more tests. They sent me home, and then I had more tests. And I had to wait for the phone calls and find out, but eventually found out that it was a cancer that was inoperable. So Sloan Kettering said they couldn't operate on it, and that I had 6 months to live. My ex-girlfriend and my girlfriend started researching. Eventually, that girlfriend in college had gone out with a guy who was Czechoslovakian. She spoke just a little bit of Czech. And she found out about a guy in Czechoslovakia, a young guy named Ivo Janica, and she called him. And he said, well, I'd be willing to do the surgery as an experiment. So we found that Pittsburgh Eye and Ear Hospital could do this, would host this guy coming. So he came, and everybody, well, not everybody, several of my girlfriends came to Pittsburgh. One of the people that they set me up with was somebody who was a psychic. She asked me, she said, well, why do you think, because my tumor had started in my sinuses, in my nose, and why do you think that the cancer started there? Like, what is it about your nose? And I said, well, it's on my nose. Right before college, so when I was 17, I had broken my nose 4 times already. I had football, basketball, and I think maybe basketball twice, and then once I walked into the bathroom door in the middle of the night. My mother came out, she started laughing. She said, well, we got to go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor showed me this like picture. It was before computers, really. This is 1980. And he shows, this is what your nose could look like. I said, well, why would I want my nose to look like that? And, oh, well, it's paid for under homeowners insurance. And my mother's like, well, you could change your nose, then you could get a boyfriend. I'm like, Mom, I don't have anything wrong with my nose. She was very, very convincing that somehow this was going to change my life. So I did it. So then when this psychic woman said to me, and I said, well, it's not my nose. She said, what do you mean? And she said, well, why do you think you got cancer in your nose? Like, why would you hold resentment there? And I said, well, because my mother made me have this nose job. But I knew that I had to forgive my mother, and that had to do with the only way I was going to heal this part of my body was to love this part of my body. The night before the surgery, I had my ex-girlfriend and my girlfriend, who I was really still in love with my ex-girlfriend, but I was really in love with my new girlfriend too. And at this time in my life, with this 6 months to live thing, I couldn't give up the love that I had gotten because it seemed really essential. I mean, I also had my best friend. She was also there, and some other friends, and they were ex-girlfriends, and they all fell asleep like on top of each other, and it was so sweet. The one that could drive, the ex, then stayed with me in the hospital that night, which, considering how much my new girlfriend loved me, was really quite mean of me. But it happened because I was scared, and they were going to come and get me at 6 o'clock in the morning. I mean, the thing was that everybody else was scared, and I was worried about them. Poor mother also, who was suffering, and she actually got very close to my girlfriend at that time because they were driving back and forth to the hospital. And I didn't know this, but my mom was crying all the time, and she said, what I realized is, she says, you have so much love in your life. I've never seen anything like this. Like, these people love you so much. You have such a community. And I said, yeah, that's what being gay and living in New York is like, Mom. And also it's just like who I am. And she's like, these are incredible women. I'm like, yeah, they're really incredible. Surgery is supposed to be like 25 hours long. And in the middle of the surgery, my friends were at the Eye and Ear Eatery at the Pittsburgh Eye and Ear Hospital. And they looked over. My friends saw this guy, doctor, sitting in the cafeteria with a little bow tie, and they said to my girlfriend, isn't that Dr. Janica? And she turned around and she said, yeah. And they're like, what's he doing here? It's only been like 10 or 11 hours. Go ask him, go ask him. And she goes up to Dr. Janica, and in her broken Czech, she says, what are you doing here? And he said, I was just about to come out and speak to you. And she's like, oh my God, she died. And, he was going to come out to tell us, but he wanted to have something to eat first, because he had been in surgery for 10 hours. And he said, no, it went really well. There was very little bleeding, and her flesh cut like butter. It was like a small child. And now the risk is whether there was going to be meningitis and whether the fluid was going to leak. But he said it was like so easy. In the hospital, I just, kept being. They would give me like a different wrapping every day. I had like different bandages and different photographs. That was 32 years ago. Why do I want to tell the story to other people? I guess it had something to do with both my mom and having a mom who struggles a lot with your sexuality and gender identity. And I think that we both learned a lot through my cancer. I learned to forgive her, to like sort of accept her, and for her to accept how important my friends were to me and how much love I had in my life. It's a story of miracles, and I believe in miracles. And I think if you see the miracles in life, then they're all around you all the time.